Hi, my name is Tara McGivern, and today I'm going to give my presentation for computer hardware on the Xbox 360. Okay, so just a little bit of background first. The Xbox 360 is the second console developed by Microsoft. It was launched in late 2005 and to date has sold over 80 million units. Here's a picture of the very first model of the Xbox. First, I'm going to talk about the motherboard for hardware. So the motherboard has gone through numerous changes since 2006. Versions include the Xenon, Zephyr, Falcon and Corona, and there is about 4 or 5 others. The Xenon was changed due to heating problems that caused the red ring of death, which meant that the console would overheat and the GPU would warp away, and ultimately the console would become useless. The Zephyr debuted in 2007 and included more heatsink at the GPU to kind of counter this problem. The Corona is the latest version to date. Both the GPU and CPU have been halved in size thanks to it, and it's HDMI enabled and has a smaller PSU or power supply unit at 115 watts. Here's a quick picture of the entire motherboard laid out. You've got the multiple components. You got the processor up here. You got the GPU over here. I got the RAM and a large multitude of other components around the motherboard. So next I'm going to talk about is the CPU. So the Xbox 360 has been fitted with 3 PowerPC processors produced by IBM. These cores run at a speed of 3.2 GHz together, and each core is able to execute 2 threads at the same time, meaning the console can run up to 6 threads simultaneously. Now, this means that the computer has massive computing capabilities and is very efficient in power consumption, but it appears that most companies only produce games that utilize 1 or 2 threads, so it's kind of wasted. Here's another small picture of the CPU. You can find it on the motherboard, it's very small. The graphics processing unit is designed by AMD. The Xbox takes advantage of the custom-built seamless graphics chip. This chip actually has a clocked speed of 500 megahertz and includes 10 megabytes of embedded dynamic RAM. Now, this embedded dynamic RAM allows for free anti-aliasing at 2 times AA, which means that when you're playing your game and you're looking off into distance, this allows for kind of the environment to be much smoother looking, and it looks very, very impressive, and was one of the big features for the Xbox. Now, the unified shader technology allows the GPU more functionality through less hardware, which again made the Xbox a powerhouse for graphics. And there's a small picture of the GPU. Now, on towards the system memory, which the Xbox actually contains 512 megabytes of GDDR3 RAM, clocked at 700 megahertz. It has a unified memory architecture which allows the RAM to be utilized by both the CPU and GPU. Now this gives the 360 a very high bandwidth, and the 10 megabytes of embedded dynamic RAM that I mentioned that was part of the GPU allows for internal memory bandwidth of 256 gigabytes a second. And this high bandwidth allows the console to be much more efficient in anti-aliasing, C-buffering, and alphabet blending. And like I previously mentioned, the 360 was a bit of a powerhouse for graphics, and you can see here the RAM and how the RAM was both utilized by the CPU and GPU, and very high bandwidth made it this way. There's actually a picture of one of the small RAM components. If you can see in the top right, you can see they were in pairs on the console. Now, in terms of hard drive storage, kind of like the console itself, it's changed over time. But basically, the 360 utilizes 2.5-inch SATA hard disk drives, and they come in a wide range of like sizes, and as well, kind of how you can obtain them. So some are both like detachable and others are built in. It kind of depends on the model of the 360 you bought. Now, the detachable ones tend to be smaller, 20 gigs, 60 gigs, and 120 gigabytes. And after this point, they started making the hard drives built into the console, and these became much bigger at 250 gigs and 320 gigs. Now, here's a picture of one of the detachable hard drives that came on the early models of the 360. And this is one of the kind of built-in drives that can be found in new models of the 360. So in terms of networking, early models of 360 did not contain built-in wireless and actually required people to go out and buy like an Xbox specific wireless adapter. Now, these there were two adapters produced over the Xbox 360's lifetime, the G being the earliest one, and the N produced towards the end of the 360's lifespan. And the G, you can see in a picture here, there's one small antenna, and you plugged it in to the back of your console with the USB. It had speeds of up to 54 megabytes a second, but then again, it was never guaranteed that you reach this because it all depends on your internet. The second model, the N, uh, it looked much different, and it had two antennas and could get up speeds of up to 300 megabytes a second. Now, the 360 Elite, after that was over, the 360S was produced, and all these models onwards contain built-in wireless, which at the equivalent of the N with 300 megabytes, which kind of received a lot of people praise Microsoft for this because it was unnecessary to have to go out and buy these wireless. Like it was, yeah, people didn't like going out and buying this adapter for 50 or 60 euro when there were other consoles in the market with built-in wireless. So DVD storage, the disk drive that the 360 has changed multiple times over the console's life. It has many different manufacturers, from Toshiba, Samsung to Lite-On and Siemens BenQ. The system includes a 12x DVD drive with read rates of 15.85 megabytes a second on the inside of the disk, and on the outside disk it tends to be kind of half that, about 6, even 7. Despite being produced by different manufacturers, the disk drive has always been the same kind of spec, and an external hard drive or disk drive, was available in early 2007, but was later discontinued in 2008 after it became pretty, like, it started selling poorly and just seemed like a big hassle to have another box sitting on top of your 360. Here's actually a few images of the disk drives produced by Lite-On, BenQ, Toshiba, Samsung, and Hitachi LG. You can see there's very little difference in them, with the exception of maybe the disc tray looking a little odd and the colour. But that was it. For audio and video, the 360 games were all required by Microsoft to support Dolby Digital 5.1 surround sound. This was just one of the basic requirements when you were making a game for the Xbox that should follow. And up until 2007, the console only supported VGA output. New models now contain a HDMI port though for your TV, and this has also made the console look a lot better. Games look so much nicer with HDMI over VGA. And for the 360, the majority of games run at 720p, and some lower that were produced at the start of the console's lifetime. However, 1080p is available and is possible, but this once again comes down to having a very kind of one of the latest models of the console and having a very, very good TV and having a lot of other things. Now, this is an image of a recently released game there in March called Metal Gear Solid Ground Zeroes, and it was released on the 360 among other platforms. And here it's actually running at 720p, and as you can see, it's very, very impressive graphically looking, and really shows off what the 360 can do, especially so far after it was released. We were talking about like 9 years on, and it's still putting out amazing images. You can see like the lighting and the shadows of the environment, and even the detail in the kind of protagonist here, his hair. You can see all the different kind of shades of it. In terms of power consumption, this has been a kind of issue that's been greatly improved over the console's life. Early models used to consume about 160 watts when you were playing a game, and this would kind of cost up to 25 to 40 euro per year, with costs of 5 cents per kilowatt, and that would usually entail kind of playing for like 2 hours every night. Now, newer models have been vastly improved thanks to kind of the motherboard. Like I mentioned, just like the GPU and the CPU had been halved in size, and kind of all these improvements have made the console more efficient. And new models can actually like consume only up to like 95 watts while running games, and this can affect kind of the price of running the console. Like I have mentioned here, it would roughly cost 15 to 30 euro, with cost of 5 cents per kilowatt if you were playing maybe 2 hours, maybe even 3 hours per night. And here's actually a graph. Um, the S is the latest model, and it's the blue bar here, and you can see it's actually producing much less power than the early console here that's producing nearly 130 watts, while this one's producing just under 100. Um, you can see as well on the right, they've named the motherboards, and like I mentioned, Falcon and Valhalla is just another one of the motherboards that the 360 has used. The controller, there's two variations for the 360s, were both wireless and the wired. Sorry, small typo there. The wired, well, first of all, the controller has 16 buttons. Has a lot of functionality, lots of things you can do with it. For the game, you got the bumpers, the triggers, and it's actually the 360 controller has been heralded as one of the best controllers for gaming because it's just so comfortable, and it's not small. Like a lot of people find other controllers from the PlayStation and the Wii to be very small and impractical when you're playing games competitively. Now, uh, the wireless controllers powered by AA batteries or rechargeable battery packs. When they're on full charge, the controller will generally last 30 hours, depending on how much is being used. The wired controller just needs to be plugged into the console with a USB and doesn't need to be charged, and weighs a lot less because of the lack of a battery pack. So there's a picture of the wireless controller, and you can see at the bottom the battery pack. And there's a small input here for plugging in a microphone, and a headset for the 360 for when you want to voice chat with friends online. And here's a picture of the wired controller. You got a pretty long cable for plugging into the console. Now the Kinect is the latest kind of in Microsoft's line for the 360. It's the first motion controller for the 360 and was released in late 2010. Now the Kinect contains a microphone, a red, green, blue camera, and a depth sensor. Now, in order for the Kinect to work, the depth sensor uses an infrared projector to detect motion and interpret its surroundings. So it tracks up to 48 points on each player's body every 30 seconds. And this is how it tells you move. Now, here is just actually a picture of the Kinect itself, and this is actually a screenshot from the movie Paranormal Activity 4, and I believe it kind of showed how the depth sensor on the Kinect worked. Like, as you can see, it's projecting a multitude of dots across the room. This when they're in the movie, when the room is dark at night and the Kinect for some reason is left on. Now, it's constantly refreshing itself, so these dots are just disappearing and reappearing. And every time someone kind of moves one of these dots, it realizes that the dot is now closer to the Kinect because someone is standing there in the way, and it's constantly refreshing and telling the difference from where these dots once were. You can figure out where the person is, and that's basically how the Kinect works. And I'm sorry for that being so complicated, but that's the best explanation I can come up with for how this functions. Now, here are actually some of my references. Kind of about the 360, a lot of its technical specifications. You can see the motherboard here, and here are some more references. It was there's a lot of information to find out about this console, and That's basically it. So thank you for listening. Any questions?